So it's been a while. Um, Anyways, just got back from seeing Joker Folie deux, or Joker 2. That's what I'm gonna call it from here on out, just to keep it short and sweet. We already know that I can be pretty long-winded, and there's a lot of fat, and the videos be unpaused, just like that. A long pause and stammering. So I'm gonna try and keep this tight and focused, and this is gonna be a mild spoiler review, so there are gonna be mild spoilers peppered throughout. But so that's your warning. But I most likely won't spoil any major plot points because I don't do that unless I'm talking with somebody that I know has seen the movie, and then we're just having like an in-depth discussion. But as far as like reviewing it for others, I don't really reveal any plot points that because I want people to go in fresh and be surprised. The only times I might do that is if there's something that I know that person is personally objectionable, whatever, something that they're opposed to, and I might warn them that that's in the movie. Anyways, that's not this, and this is my Joker review. Just got out of it. In short, it's fantastic. Um, the only reason that apparently fans or whomever are having a conniption, a hard time. They're very angry at this movie, and this is a fuck you to the fans. So I stayed through all the way to after the credits because I was genuinely curious, thinking that there's some kind of after credit, either literal fu or some kind of gotcha moment, but there wasn't. It was just, um, long story short, it's not a happy ending. So that might be a bit of a spoiler, but if you saw the first movie, if you actually think about it, it's not a happy ending in that either. But in the West, viewers are conditioned to expect certain thing by the end of a story, and if that thing doesn't happen, then um, people think it's bad or whatever, and Uh, this kind of leads into a bigger conversation of art versus um, products. And most people are just consumers. Most people are anti-art. So, and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. So movies are, they can be either art or a product, and sometimes they're a marriage between the two. So what's art? The purpose of art is expression of the artist, and art is successful upon the completion of that art. So it doesn't matter what the viewer thinks, or so whether we're talking about a sculpture, a painting, a dance, whatever, it doesn't matter what the audience thinks of that art, because that's not the point of it. So as far as it being a success, as and I got this from Prince. He put it into words perfectly. As soon as the art is complete, it's successful because that's the point of the art, to be made. A product, on the other hand, has to meet certain standards and qualifications to be, uh, successful, and that's where the customer comes in, and the customer is quote unquote always right because the purpose of a product is to satisfy a desire of a consumer. So, in the case of art, the ultimate authority is the artist. In the case of products, the ultimate authority is the consumer. When you marry the two, um, I mean, you can't technically marry the two. But when you do marry the two, when you're making a art product, the customer is ultimately the authority. So even if the product is well crafted and um, just a high end product, ultimately at the end of the day, if the customer doesn't like it, then it was a fail. not because it didn't have a high standard or a high quality, but um, it failed to fulfill the purpose of a product, which is to satisfy the customer. Anyway, so as far as Joker 2 goes, well, I'm gonna pause this and move it along because I don't want to be interrupted by my family and don't want to spoil it for them. Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom. Sorry. um. Also, so this weekend, the reason I was thinking of the whole art product thing was I also saw a movie called Megalopolis, which was a passion project of an iconic, legendary director named Francis Ford Coppola, who apparently, this is years in the making, self-funded all this crap, and it's a terrible film. But that's fine, because it's a piece of art. And as I was just expressing a moment ago, the point of art is to be made and complete. Doesn't matter how it's received. Doesn't matter what the non-artist thinks about it. You're just supposed to, I guess, observe and experience it. Joker 2 also is a piece of art, but made by a company that obviously wants to make money because they wanted to cash in on the success, the financial success of the first one. So the first movie I thought was a very good, mediocre movie. It's a very cinematic, mediocre movie. And most people, most MCU fans, are just used to mediocre movies. That's why so many people were so awed and thought that the first Joker movie was so amazing because it was cinematic. It wasn't an amazing film. It was just very well crafted, very well made. Cinematography, the acting. It's just a very competently made movie that was, again, cinematic. This, Joker 2, is every bit as cinematic as the first movie, but even more original, and the performances are on par or better than the first movie. So this movie is fantastic. It's better than the first movie. The first movie, like I said, is a cinematic, mediocre movie. This is a cinematic, good, or good movie. You could call it a masterpiece, whatever. Um, but that aside, the whole art versus product thing, and the whole reception versus quality thing, something else that I had on my mind, I guess, from the film was, it definitely has a lot of interesting commentary on our true self versus expectations and the performance, like expectations put on us and that we put on ourselves, versus the performance that we put on for others and that's created. And everybody can relate to that, even though they might not consciously be able to be not consciously able to conjure up an example. But for instance, if you go viral, like you make a video and all of a sudden you go viral, no, forget that. I'll do something that everybody can relate to, because not everybody makes videos. You say something amongst a group of people and it gets a positive reaction. Everybody thinks it's funny. From that point forward, you're trying to get another laugh. Like, you're trying to be funny. You're trying to tell a joke, where the initial laugh you got was spontaneous and natural. And then from that point forward, you're trying to be the funny person. So then you create this persona of you're being a funny person versus naturally just saying funny things or acting funny, and people naturally reacting in that way. And you can do that in any field of life, whether it's romance between a man and a woman, a man and well, it doesn't matter. Basically, it's a matter of trying to replicate success. Many times when there's something that is quote unquote successful, you create this expectation and then this false expectation and chase that success again, and you end up becoming a character. This movie is a commentary on that. The Joker persona versus Arthur Fleck, the person, and everybody either trying to use him to their own ends, like dehumanizing. That's another thing that we often hear in the world. Oh, this is dehumanizing, objectifying. You're looking at porn, you're objectifying women. And that's a valid discussion to have. But something that's always interesting is it's always focused on women and never the humanity of men and women. Like men are never ever the focus of the conversation of uh so it's weird that men are given like this ultimate power. Where in the society where the be all end all, it's like we give women their power. We're the ones who decide how things are. We're the ones who created this world, and it's like there's no contribution from women, and they don't have any kind of power or say without our uh, allowance, which is completely false. Um, so often, men are dehumanized. I'd say even more often than females are women, and it's so intrinsic in society that we don't even notice it. I mean, it's just as it always has been, as it always should be, and it is what it is. Like it doesn't even matter. We're generally expendable. We're like the pavement, like we're the stones in the pavement. It's like you can go off to war, you can die, whatever. You can die in a factory, you can die in a mine, you could die. You're born to serve, basically, and you're born to build and prop up the empire. So you are an expendable asset. Um, and the very few that actually have power that people tend to blame the patriarchy. So there's only one in a patriarchal system, a matriarchal system, whatever kind of system. There's one person that's in power, the king or the father or whatever. And that blame gets trickled down to all people with a penis. So, which doesn't actually make sense because the vast majority of the structure um, doesn't have the same power and influence and benefits and luxuries that that one small person at the top does. So them being blamed for that doesn't make sense when the whole system is complicit with the structure. So, but anyways, this is completely off topic, and I had no idea and no plan on going off on that tangent. But then again, we already know I'm long-winded, and so back to the film. Another thing that it made me think of was how, since the beginning of time or time immemorial, or whatever, men have been doing stupid things for women. Um, and I want to have a discussion with everyone about men and women and the relationship and the nature of both sexes or whatever. But from Adam, from the beginning, men have been doing stupid things for women and ultimately to our own detriment. Adam and Eve, Helen of Troy, Samson and Delilah. Um, just there's numerous examples of a guy doing something stupid in order to try and garner favor from a woman, and it ending in disaster. And um, it's ironic. Another thing this movie mentioned was like the character Harley Quinn, or Lee for short. Uh, so she had this fantasy about Joker or whatever, and is manipulating him and things like that, and claims that he people think he's a bad influence on her, but if, in actuality, in the context of the film, she's a bad influence on him. And that's, I thought it was a very interesting and accurate portrayal of reality. It's like, many times, again, men are deified and women are mystified. It's like, they're magical, they need to be protected, they're little damsels or whatever. And we don't necessarily often give them their due, or, well, we dehumanize them too and pretend that they're little dainty creatures that are need protecting. And many times they're the ones pulling the strings and whatever. So, oh, and also, it made me think of how, until recently, and even recently, but with social media, less so now, white women have gotten away with so much. So much, whether it's like Emmett Till, oh, he whistled at me, or he, whatever, made a pass at me, and then we string up this little child and murder him. White women have been the apple of society's eye for the longest time. They can do no wrong, they can do no evil, and they get away with murder. This movie made me think of that, how it's like, this person is obviously doing things that if somebody else that looks different did them, they would be treated completely different. They'd have a completely different consequence. And it's amazing. It wasn't like in your face. It wasn't making that kind of commentary, but the reality was present. Like, um, and I found that fascinating too. So ultimately, at the end of the day, in this long, meandering, um, word vomit review of Joker, Folie Deux, it's a very fantastic film, very well acted, very well crafted, cinematography, the music, everything. Uh, and for a movie that I didn't think needed to exist because I felt the first one was fine being a one off, this exceeds the first one in every way. It's actually better than the first, and um, it's a fantastic film, and makes me think of how DC tends to make better movies than Marvel. Movie, uh, More artistic movies. There's more variety. They make art and they make products, where Marvel tends to make products, and they're more successful at it. Honestly, that's why they're the dominating franchise with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um, and but DC makes the superior movie. Um, Now, don't get me wrong. There's a couple Marvel movies that tend to be more artistic and more sophisticated, but at the end of the day are still, at most, a marriage between product and art. And art is pure art, but probably the best, most sophisticated, mature Marvel movie is Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003. It's very artistic, it's very thought provoking, or maybe not thought provoking depending on who you are, but it has a lot to say about um, the relationship between child and um, parent, man and nature, masculinity, psychology, destiny, uh, spirituality. It's very deep if you want to go to the depths that uh, there's a lot there if you want to. And then the second probably movie that most people think of when it comes to um, the best of Marvel is Logan. But again, for the most part, DC tend to make better movies. There's more variety, they're more cinematic, and Marvel makes more mass appeal products, and that's why they have the mass appeal. Um, so, um, that's pretty much it. It's not, it's not trying to be a comic book movie. It's inspired by comic book characters. Like, um, another thing, Matt Reeves' Batman movie and Christopher Nolan's uh, Dark Knight trilogy, they are not realistic at all. They are grounded, which means like they took the material and the concept and the question seriously, and they base it in reality, like how people behave and how uh, um, vehicles and weapons are designed and function and things like that. But they're not realistic. Like, for instance, Matt Reeves' Batman, he's hang gliding and face plants into a bridge at 40, 50 miles per hour. That would instantly kill somebody. That'd crush their skull, break their neck, whatever. And ultimately, he's completely fine from it. So, and that's the thing with DC movies. They range from real world, like Joker, to fantasy, like Adam West's Batman 1966 and campy and things like that. And often many people think reality or just being serious and gritty or dark means it's realistic when that's not true. It just means it's grounded. And like, well, I won't bring in other directors. But anyways, Joker 2 is a very well-made movie. It's bleak, it's dark, not hopeful, but it's a very fantastic movie. That's my review, and maybe I will see you again depending on, I don't know, whenever the spirit moves me. Bye.